echipa câștigătoare de anul acesta, Game Break.
Salutare și bine te-am găsit la GameDev Radio, locul unde urcăm până în vârful industriei de jocuri video și pe fiecare nivel deschidem câte un lootbox cu cele mai interesante subiecte: educație, antreprenoriat, carieră, povești de succes sau nu și multe altele, împreună cu invitații noștri. Haide alături de noi să conectăm XP. Începe GameDev Radio cu Andrei Strate.
Salutare tuturor! Bine v-am găsit, dragilor, la ultima intervenție din această seară. Jari, I will make a short intro in Romanian, then we switch to English. O să facem o ediție specială și datorită faptului că va fi în limba engleză, dat fi faptul că invitatul meu de astăzi nu cunoaște atât de bine limba română, și vom discuta un pic despre ce se întâmplă în industria jocurilor la nivel european. Așadar, să înceapă episodul, să înceapă ultima, pot să zic grea și lungă și obositoare, să înceapă ultima intervenție de la Dev.Play de astăzi, imediat.
GameDev Radio, sursa ta de informații din culisele jocurilor video.
3, 2, 1.
So, hello everybody and welcome to a special intervention from Dev.Play, because I have a guest from not far away, actually, Jari Pekka, who is a chief operational officer of the European Game Developers Federation, EGDF on short. Jari, hi and welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Great to be here.
It's been a long day. You are tired. I'm tired too. So hopefully we can do a quick, short, useful intervention for those listening to us. Jari, you're from Sweden?
Actually from Finland.
Finland.
Yeah.
I wanted to say Finland first. God damn it. From Finland, and you're doing a lot of interesting stuff for the game developers all over Europe, not only Finland or Romania or a particular region. How long have you been doing this?
I joined on the association side in 2009, so it has already been 10 years.
10 years
Yeah.
already. And how long is EGDF?
EGDF was founded in 2007, so it was completely different industry back in the days. So
Yeah,
it has
yeah.
European games industry has transformed a lot during the time EGDF has been working with European politics on building up European games ecosystems.
And previously, what did you do before IGDF? Because when the two of us when we met the first time, you're part of EGDF? I don't remember exactly.
Might have been. Before that, I worked for a small game developer studio back in my hometown, Oulu, called Tunnel Productions. That's like long time ago.
Some people that follow GameDev Academy know about Oulu because we work with them on GameLab project in Finland. But I think you were in EGDF because I remember that through you I got to talk with Guillaume.
So must be
it might have been in EGDF, yeah, because he was a president at that point. Yeah. So what I wanted to talk with Jari, it's a bit what's happening in Europe in terms of the industry, the whole industry. How big do we get, and are we still getting bigger, or things are starting to slow down? And for the second part of the discussion, I want to touch a bit on European Union funding for game developers. So let's go with the first one. What's happening in Europe in terms of video games?
Of course, Europe is not a single entity. There are many different countries in more established countries like in Finland, Germany, UK, France. There are up and downs, but in general, industry is still growing and doing well. Beyond that,
what's supporting the industry right now? Because in previous years, there was this growth driven by the mobile industry. It's still happening, or there is something else?
Of course, there has been a movement from mobile to PC lately, and now these cloud streaming services are emerging, and there are not surprisingly many, but there are many European games there, as there should be, because Europe is really good at narrative storytelling games. Yeah. And beyond that, there is of course increasing public investment and support for games that is really helping the industry to grow in many countries.
Which is something that was not happening so much in 10 years ago.
Definitely not. It has been something that the game developer associations all over Europe have been really building up.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Going beyond these, let's say, old established game industry powerhouses all around Europe, there is, of course, in Eastern Europe, we have seen just in 5 years amazing development. Not just in Romania that has emerged as one of the new startup hubs of games industry, but also in Poland especially. There's amazing how these new studios have emerged in few years. And recently we have seen a similar development in countries like Slovenia, Slovakia, Serbia, Croatia definitely. And also to a certain extent in Baltic countries. So at the moment on my map on the European game development, I think there's something going on in all European countries. Of course, things are not that well structured, perhaps in countries like Greece. But it's, games are now mainstream industry.
Yeah. And when do you see for the foreseeing future that the industry will keep growing and rising?
It has been growing for decades now, and all the statistics so it should continue to grow. The challenge, of course.
Why I'm thinking about this because
is about it's growing globally.
Of course, growing globally.
Regional level is different.
One of the things that we are in industry that always had like big jumps during major technological breakthroughs, and right now apparently there is nothing such so breakthrough like it used to be the mobile, for example. Yeah, we have the next gen which should be next year, but nobody is expecting something never seen before. The VR is not what everybody was hoping for. The mobile don't have the same rapid growth like they did in the previous years. And the only big thing that maybe people see more potential, it's the streaming services like Stadia and other streaming services, which I think PlayStation tried a couple of years ago with PlayStation Network, and I know they bought something like a streaming service. They tried, didn't work. Now everybody's trying streaming services, but I don't see streaming services as something that will make games as popular or as a growth globally like mobiles did. So how do you see the foreseen future in terms of technological breakthrough? Maybe something you know and we don't know about. This could be a big thing.
I would say there are two sides of the story. First, of course, many of the existing platforms continue to exist. Like mobile is definitely not going anywhere very shortly.
Sure.
Console and PC are going to stay there, and there will be certain development on that side, changing business models, way of doing business. But beyond that, I would say that something that we are a bit blinded here in Europe is the fact of what has happened during the last 10 years, that we see extremely stable time for the games industry. We had the mobile boom in the beginning of the 2010s, and after that, not much has changed. But at the meanwhile, in China, we have had a revolution with the WeChat, reaching hundreds of millions of users, and it's not really visible for us. At the same
exactly,
time,
it's not really visible in Europe. What's happening in Asia?
And we also saw there was a VR bubble in China. That there was a consumer market for VR in China, something we didn't see. And now with the 5G networks being implemented rapidly in both in South Korea and China, there will be amazing new things happening. But we have to be careful that we are present there when this magic happens. And it's not something that suddenly just is imported here in Europe.
That's good. 5G is something that could lead to big development in games industry, because you can play it like it's a network cable right now.
But for Europe, it's going to require a lot of changes. Like in Finland, where we have this kind of unlimited mobile data as standard, it's very easy to start building services. And it's not a surprise that Rovio launched its Hatch service in Finland, because, well, there was in a way market for this, but will require from a number of European countries that we
make
still
some
have
changes.
Flat rates for mobile data before any kind of 5G industry success story will happen. Unfortunately, that is happening now in China, so they are coming.
Could be an example to follow for other countries.
Definitely the flat rates on mobile data is something that we are going to need in the future, and it's luckily getting more popular all around Europe, that there are coming affordable services from the telcos from that side.
That's something that indeed could help, and maybe not increase the growth, but keep the growth we had in the recent in the last years.
And also secure that we in Europe don't have to go outside Europe to test this kind of cutting-edge, data-hungry games and services that are streamed from a cloud to mobile.
Yeah, that's true. What's EGDF doing? Because I know you're doing a lot of work, and actually you have a talk tomorrow.
Today, already.
You had it today. On GDPR implementation 1 year after.
Or actually, all the other things than GDPR that are going to be implemented.
And other things, what's more to expect? Because let me break it down a bit for people to understand how they can relate to EGDF. So EGDF, it's an association of association at European level. So basically, we in Romania, we have RGDA, which is Romanian Game Developers Association, which is affiliated to EGDF, representing Romania at European level through EGDF. So what's happening, you can help us at European level to understand better what's happening in Brussels, where people decide stuff, and how this can affect and help us here in Romania. So being a member of RGDA here in Romania, you have access to this kind of support and help. And in terms of what can people expect from EGDF European level?
To sum up my half an hour presentation in the 4 key points.
That's awesome if you can do that.
So the first big thing in June next year, 2020, we will have a new platform regulation being enforced, and it means that if a platform is going to take down any game from App Store, they have to inform a game developer about that beforehand, and then game developer has to have opportunity to complain on this decision.
Oh,
And then
really?
Apple and Google have to reply to angry emails sent
Oh
by
my
the
god,
Apple and
that's
Google.
that's amazing.
So that's like the biggest
That's
risk
huge,
for
yeah.
any game developer there is, that suddenly your game is down, and that has happened number of times
Yeah,
also
yeah,
for
yeah.
European games. So
Yeah,
now there's
exactly.
a solution for that.
Especially those with candy in their name. I know a couple of them, but let's not go into details. That's huge. That's big, and they have to explain the reason why they're taking you down.
Yeah, they have to explain it and argue, and you can claim that it's not
Nice,
valid. And
nice.
hopefully
That's
it will change things. And second big topic is new rules for influencer marketing through audiovisual media service directive. So all the influencers have to clearly say that if a game developer studio is sponsoring their content by giving them some free
Okay, so it's mandatory to
tutorials
explain.
and so on, and that's of course because on the influencer side, not everyone is perhaps super experienced after all the rules. It's going to require a certain work from the game developer side as well to secure that all these rules are followed. The third big thing is new copyright regulation, and on that side there has been lots of fear-mongering on different topics. It's still hard to say what kind of impact it will have, but something what is going to happen for sure is that there will be much more this kind of administrative burden for game developer studios on tracking who has contributed in a game and reporting how much these contributions
in terms of online
in terms of any kind of
really
if you're working for a game developer studio, there will be requirements that the studios will be more transparent how they have used your 3D models, your code in a game, and then report to you how much they have generated profit, and that's of course going to require changes in the way how human resources departments are working. Their details are still of course debated on member state level how it will work out, and most likely if you are only doing tiny thing in a game, of course this kind of reporting obligations don't exist in that case. But if you are really making a major contribution like lots of 3D models, of course you have more transparency in that case. And the last big thing is then in 2 years is a new digital contracts directive, and on that side will require in 2021 beginning of the year that you will review your terms and conditions, and remember to mention there that you might change the content during the time it's available for the players, especially with the games as a service. This is something important to remember. So there will be a little bit of technical legal exercise in beginning of 2021.
That will bring some more for the developers in terms of content, or am I getting things wrong?
So basically what it means that there's a terms and conditions on website. It has to clearly say that if a game developer is going to change the game from what is when the player downloads it, it has to be in the terms and conditions mentioned that the game developer is going to do this at some point. If it's not mentioned, then the player would be allowed to ask their money back if the balance in the game is changed drastically.
So if I do this from the beginning, like I mentioned that my game may change through a patch or whatever,
it's then okay.
Okay.
So it's just
is there any way of controlling this? I mean, I don't see the value in this.
It's basically for you to know. It's for all products online. So if you are getting something, you at least know from the beginning that it will not stay the same for a time period you are using.
Yeah, this is tricky because for video games it's so difficult to know and to point out like what's the same.
Yeah.
Because I can change a variable in the movement of the player and I have a different game. So that's a tricky one.
Yeah, but it's more something.
I see the reason.
Add the words in the text, and that's will be fine. And also the players know that it's not like a paper download game that stays the same.
This stays the same through the
So the balance between the multiplayer games can change drastically over time. That's part of
that's true.
Balancing things through.
May have microtransaction, may have not have microtransactions, because we had this lately quite a lot. So thank you for this overview. I want us to change the topic and go a bit to funding. And I'm pretty sure since you're quite up to date with what's happening in Romania, I think it's your second or third time here.
something like that.
And we also met over various other events and discussed about the Romanian industry. One of the big issues in Romania is that we don't have so much funding in terms of state support from the government, instead of private investors not being so much available for us, in terms of like in VC funding, because we don't have so much so many funding opportunities. We don't have money, to put it simple. One way of getting money is approaching the European Union funding opportunities. Are there any for game developers who want to make a game?
There are, especially on the Creative Europe side, there are a number of instruments. The challenge is now that the current funding period is going to end beginning of next year. And unfortunately, the policymakers seems to continue to debate the new budgets until the next year. So it's very
probably have a new way or new opportunity next year somewhere.
Unfortunately, it might be 2020.
Whoa, that's big! Like 1 year
or 2022 even before they get things
why
running.
why is this happening?
Because
why do we have like 1 year where there is no funding?
Because first they have to agree on a budget, and then they can actually start to plan to new funding instruments.
It's happening because we had election on European level, and damn.
But it's not just that; it's also that unfortunately, as a general trend, it's increasingly more difficult for the policymakers to reach a consensus in European level on anything. So all these negotiations take time.
Take a lot of time, and then who gets damaged by this? I sorry for lacking the proper words. The game developers. Yeah,
it's those who, because of course, for a game developer studio perspective, if you are going to get funding in 2021 and now it's beginning of 2020, it's like eternity.
Yeah.
So we need to get these instruments running as soon as possible. And so hopefully people in the process
even
can agree.
Much more difficult because you have an idea, which is something that could work right now in the current trend with the current technology and current. In 2021, it may be obsolete already.
Exactly. Or even 2022 is really bad situation.
Disregarding this, maybe it's in 1 year, 2 years, still accessing European Union funding is a solution for a game developer to attract some money.
That's something we have worked as in GDF really hard over the years to actually improve the instruments. And we are really hoping that Creative Europe loan instrument, that by the way is not currently available also in Romania, will be extended to equity instrument and hopefully encouraging this kind of cross-border investment. So when this instrument existing, hopefully there will be lots of this kind of investors coming to Dev.Play to use EU funding together with their own funding to invest in game developer studios. Then there is the last call of Creative Europe funding for game development. If you are making a narrative storytelling games, it's now open and will close in the beginning of next year. So you still have time to write an application for the last round.
Focus also it's dedicated to narrative-driven games.
Exactly, but you have to have one in your catalog already that has been commercially distributed, and you have to be building one. This is a bit of old school thinking that the cultural value of games would be in narrative storytelling. But that's the way it is, and we hope to, of course, have more focus on innovation for the next round. And for that, it's still too early to say how the new instruments will look like, but unfortunately it looks like this kind of old grant-based instruments will be somehow modified. Perhaps co-production, bigger projects or whatever, but we will see that in perhaps next year at some point.
I was wondering, so I'm not sure you know the answer to this, but it's something that I'm curious about, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have this in mind too. How do you define, in terms of European Union, who says you need to have one games of this genre list already? How do you define a game list?
Basically, it has to be available in a commercial distribution platform.
So this is everything. It doesn't matter if it's like a 2 minutes game or a 20 hours game.
As long as it's a really narrative storytelling game. So what some say very soon say that it cannot be this kind of text-based game.
Yeah, so it can be text-based game. Yeah,
graphics, but it can be short as long as it has been distributed and it has generated at least some revenue. Of course, if it's really not that successful and really short, people reviewing the applications are going to have a look on that and say like, okay, your resume might not be the best possible one.
Why I'm asking this? So here's a breakdown of how I see things, and it's one of the things that personally bothers me a lot when we are talking about funding, even here in Romania on local funding. So you look at the market and you say like, okay, we have 100 gaming studios in Romania. 80% of them, actually 80 when you have 100, 80 studios are indie studios.
Yeah.
Out of those 80s, maybe 60 studios need funding because it's the first project they are creating. So it's 60% of the market needs help.
Yeah.
Yet you create a rule that says you need to have a game released, which is basically a rule that applies to the other 40%, which have a game release, which have money to operate alone.
I completely agree.
So when policymakers create these rules, why they don't try and create something that can go to people like the two of us, like 20 years ago when we were young students, wanted to make games and we want to do this. And we, let's say we have food from our parents and they send us sandwiches to the campus university and we sit in our bedrooms and create a game. And we need money to finish it. Nobody's helping us. Yet for the companies that created something and release it and maybe made some money, they get help. This doesn't make sense to me.
I completely agree. It really doesn't make sense from like industry perspective, especially because we are talking about small sums here, and that would be really beneficial for smaller
studios, exactly.
However, unfortunately, the challenge is not so much policymakers, but people running these instruments. Because if you have only like, I think there was a bit more than few millions of euros in a call per Creative Europe call. It's quite a little of money. And so if you receive like
1 million applications,
it's getting actually reviewing the application is going to cost more than you have money in the budget.
So basically, if I can translate this answer, if we make it available for who need it, we may have a lot of work to select those that can get it. So we don't want to work like overtime.
So what I would say, we need more funding for games. Because that's of course the solution. If we would have a similar project and like film industry, then it would make sense to actually handle this kind of products. And as for example, a German example with their 50 million euro fund 1 year for games under the minimis funding, meaning it has to be less a few hundreds of thousands of euros maximum. Yeah, they were able to handle it.
Yeah.
So it's not be a problem for the European.
So it's handleable and
it's
doable,
handleable as long as it's there's the will, and that has to come from the policymakers. Actually push and say this is important. We need more funding for this, and we need also proper resources for handling the applications.
Yeah. Hopefully this will change in the coming future. We have new people in the European Union Parliament, so we'll see what's happening. I know a lot of the people who are listening to us don't really care about politics and all that, but at one point those policies affect what we do and what we like, and that is making video games. Guys, thank you for watching. Jari, thank you very much for sitting with us. This was the last intervention from Dev.Play today. We'll meet again tomorrow with more talks and more discussions. Have a good evening, everybody, and see you tomorrow.
Let's go!
Echipa câștigătoare de anul acesta, Game Break.